start the event. Fabulous. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Gross. I'm an admissions officer at Tufts University. Very excited to be here with everyone today. Thank you all for joining us for the session of Meet the International Center. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Lizzie, Julia, and Patrick, who are going to be hosting this event today, along with some other fabulous members of the International Center team. So with that, I'm going to turn my camera off and kick things over to them.
All right, thanks, Mackenzie, and good morning or afternoon or evening. Like Mackenzie said, my name is Pat Himes. I'm an assistant director at the International Center, and we're just going to go through some information for you to learn more about what our office does and how international students are supported and assisted throughout their time at Tufts. So as you're aware, this session is being recorded and it will be available. You can use the Q&A box. We may re-enable the chat, but otherwise you can send anything in the Q&A, and I have my colleagues Marissa and Lizzie and Julia here who can answer along with Mackenzie. And it sounds like everyone will likely remain muted throughout, so I will just keep going through this quickly. We're just going to talk about our office, introduce you what we do, and then how international students are supported for at Tufts. So it's a pretty straightforward agenda. You'll get to see a piece of everything that goes on here at the university and how international students are helped. And starting with all of the international students at Tufts at the undergraduate level, we have students going to the School of Museum of Fine Arts down at the SMFA campus, the School of Engineering, School of Arts and Sciences on the Medford Somerville campus. We have a very healthy population of international students from all over at all of these schools. And we assist them all throughout the entire 4 years or however long they're here with us. And getting into some numbers here, we do have approximately about 2,000 international students from over 100 countries around the world. So it's a very diverse group of students coming from all over the place. And it's really great to see everyone arrive and thrive during their time here. We support international students with, obviously, right at the beginning, you get admitted and confirm your enrollment to Tufts. We help you with the entire process about getting your documents that you need to get a U.S. visa, traveling to the U.S. We tell you all about the rules and requirements for staying in the U.S. One really important piece that we help a lot of students with is all of their questions and how they can go about working in the U.S. Maybe that's at an internship over the summer or once they complete their program. That's really kind of the bread and butter, the sort of detailed work we do with students in terms of immigration. And then we do a variety of orientation and welcome programs. Sometimes we team up with other offices at the university to help bring that international piece, or if another office is trying to help out international students with something like an internship search or how you do that, we often will pair up and co-present on topics like that so that students have all the information they need. Another big piece there, you coming to, for many of you, a new country for the first time, spending 4 years here is a lot. There's a lot to adjust to. And one of the most important things we do to help out students and their families sometimes is help just navigating Tufts. How do things work here? How do you get something done? How do you get the help you need? Where should you go? Who should you talk to? So we usually tell students, like, hey, just come to us with any questions you might have if you're not sure where you should go. Sometimes we don't know, but we'll find out. Usually we know the answer or who you can talk to. And if you really run into a tricky problem, we can kind of be that voice for you at Tufts, just to make sure that whatever the problem or issue is being addressed in a timely manner. So we really do pride ourselves on being responsive and helping out and sorting out those problems or issues a student might face. We can be an ear or a sort of first point of contact if any student is having, any sort of personal financial issue or academic concerns. We really do care about all of our students here, and we try our best to get them connected to the resources they need, whether they're thriving or whether they need some help. So it is something all of our team really prides ourselves on helping out our students when they need it. And we do in general, across the campuses and with faculty and other staff and other students, we promote the international community, support different um, programs and student groups, and do what we can to be involved and make sure that the international community is heard and feels like they're part of the campus. For our undergraduate students, these are just some photos of the staff at our office. We are an office of 10, and I'm joined here by Marissa and Lizzie, who are advising some of the undergrad students. And there's a picture of Sylvia as well. Julia is here, a program coordinator, and our director, Anna, and our office coordinator, Marva, who's always in the front of the office, who you'd see if you came to Tufts and come into our office for sort of open advising hours. Um, and you can always check our website. I realize I didn't plug that at the beginning, but we do put a ton of information on our website, and it's a great resource to see all the different options we have and the support and information we provide. And then finding support. So as I mentioned, we do work with different parts of our campus. There's a lot of different offices that provide a lot of specific focus support to our students. And we can join those offices in their efforts. Sometimes it's sort of a one-on-one thing where we're helping out an individual student. Sometimes we're involved in workshops or other programs that an office might be doing. And as you can see, I won't read all of these points out, but there's a lot. You're surrounded by a team of staff and faculty who really want you to succeed, and we do connect and we do work together. One of my favorite parts about working at Tufts is all of the staff that I work with, we really do care about the students. So this is just an example. There are more offices that provide this support, but these are many of the ones we commonly work with. And just another example where we stand in terms of the different offices that support students. We work closely with all of these. Like, as you can tell, some of it is very administrative, the insurance office, but that's that piece where students come to us because they don't quite understand how the insurance might work here or how public safety works here or the health service. So we can be that bridge to help you or your family figure out the best way to get your questions answered or problem solved. And we can assist you with any of that. So these are just a few more offices that we do work with closely. And I'll pass it along to my colleague, Julia, who's going to talk about community and programming and support.
Great. Thank you, Pat. And hi, everyone. My name is Julia Keith. As was already mentioned, I'm a program coordinator at the International Center. And yeah, I'm the staff member who's maybe working most closely with a variety of different programs and events and student initiatives. The advising staff is involved in different ways here and there, but yeah, so I can maybe speak to some of the things that we are doing collectively as an office to help support students kind of outside of the other things that have been mentioned already. The immigration piece obviously is handled by the advising staff, but we really make an effort and we're trying to grow our efforts in the realm of organizing events and programs throughout the year to support our international students who are really seeking to find community here. That's a really important part of our mission, is to help everyone feel like they belong on campus. So we're involved with a lot of different organizations that are run by students. The kind of main primary group that we're working with is the International Club, affectionately known as I Club. We work with them throughout the year, but especially in the spring when they organize their kind of signature annual event, which is Parade of Nations Festival. And that's a really fun time. You can see sort of this bottom picture. It involves student performances from, there's a variety of like dance and singing and culture groups on campus. And it's a really fun time. It's a showcase of all the different, just talents on campus, it's always an amazing time. We as a staff go and have a great time. So that's a really fun experience that we look forward to every spring. Yeah, and then I'll move on here to talking about something that's specifically targeted to incoming first year students. This is a program that has grown in the time that I've been here over the past 2.5 years. It's the International Center Peer Advisor Program. And this is a group of current undergraduate students, and you can see our current group that are coming really from all over the world. And the idea is that we hire this group of students to first start in the summer when incoming first years are still at home and getting ready to arrive but haven't yet left. And they're organizing a series of virtual workshops to kind of help students prepare for this transition, which can be a very daunting and intimidating process. And so the idea is to really have a group of their peers talk to them about what it was like for them, what are the things that they feel would help kind of give them a little bit of a boost and help ease that transition. So they're really meant to be guides and offer peer support. And it's been very successful. We've had a really, I think, a growing interest in this program. The number of advisors that we hired this year has grown as well. So also we were seeing a bit of a ripple effect of students who experienced this as incoming first years who are now involved as advisors. They kind of want to give back in that way. So, if students choose to come to Tufts, we try to promote this program right at the beginning of the summer, right after sort of everyone's kind of signed up and getting on board. We have an Instagram for this group, so that students can follow them there as well. And that's currently live now. So if you're at all interested, you could check that out just to see some of the events that are happening. Like for instance, last night, the peer advisors organized a collaboration with the Asian American Center on campus, which is one of the diversity and inclusion centers that I'll talk about in a minute. But they partner up sometimes with other groups on campus to really offer fun in-person events. Now that we're all here, on campus, it switches from kind of being more of a virtual thing in the summertime to getting together in person in the fall. And you can also look on our website. Again, we've got more information there. Yeah, and so just a little word about there are a lot of acronyms, but so DSDI, identity centers, and these are a group of centers, as I mentioned, they're looking at different identities on campus, trying to create spaces for students who identify in one or many ways. So we have a number that are kind of looking at more kind of their cultural background. So like the Africana Center, the Asian American Center, Latinx Center. But then also we have the First Resource Center. So those are for students who are first generation students, first in their families to be attending college. We have the LGBTQ plus center, the Women's Center, Indigenous Center, and then also the STEM Diversity Center, which is helping students who are in the STEM field, again, maybe sort of as like a first in their families, or trying to help students from underrepresented backgrounds in those fields. So there's more information on the Tufts website as well if you're interested in any of those. A couple of other offices that we just wanted to highlight that were kind of mentioned briefly in those slides that were showing the other parts of campus that we interact with. Star Center is a really helpful office. It provides academic support, which includes help with writing, time management, study skills. They often organize workshops that are targeted to different populations of students. They tend to do some things that are meant to help international students specifically, if they're looking for help with, with writing, or they might even do some conversation groups. But yeah, so this is a really good resource to make use of. They also are the designated office that is helping students um, get accommodations for any documented disabilities. So an important resource in that way as well. And then the Career Center is another office that we partner with pretty closely. We actually have an event coming up with them next week, which is looking at specifically targeted to international students, helping them figure out job search and internship search strategies. Since this is a real point of focus, I think for students who come in right away, I'm noticing that more and more students are kind of really oriented to figuring out the career path as soon as they get here. So this is a great office that really helps out with their career planning. They offer one-on-one advising. They give tips on resume building. They organize workshops. And they help maintain Handshake, which is a search portal for on-campus jobs. And this is a great thing for students to really be aware of. Like, for instance, our office, we hire a number of student workers to help at our front desk. This is also where we post positions for the peer advisors. So this is something that students should be checking out once they arrive. And yeah, that's the Career Center. And then the Student Health Service and Counseling and Mental Health Services offices. So those are two different offices. I kind of said them all as one, but student health is providing medical services to students. So if they're feeling, physically sick, unwell, they have a variety of services. It's a walk-in situation, and that this is the way they can get medical care on campus. CMHS is for counseling. This is for mental health services. So they have a team of therapists that are designated to help out with anything in that realm. So I think that's really all to say about those two offices. And then, yeah, just to kind of wrap up, really our goals here in supporting the Tufts student experience, we're looking for everyone to have a rewarding, fulfilling academic experience, of course. But we really also want to facilitate these connections where they can make friends, not only with domestic students, so from everyone who's here from across the United States, but also from around the world. And this really is what makes Tufts a very vibrant community. And, we have a variety of students that are maybe in kind of both worlds too. This is what we're finding more and more. Pat and I both work with another program that was not mentioned, which is Global Orientation. And that's a pre-orientation program that, again, if students are applying and accepted ultimately to Tufts, that's an option for their orientation experience. And those students are always a really interesting group because they're both domestic and international, but some are, born here in the US, but then have spent a lot of time abroad, have come back. So we're really trying to promote and embrace this idea of, students who can be international identifying and able to kind of share these experiences with each other. Yeah, and this is the hope, is that then we'll prepare students so that they can be prepared to kind of meet these global, national, local challenges that we all are facing as well. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. Maybe I'll pass it back to Pat.
Thanks, Julia. Just trying to think if I wanted to add. Oh, just on the student health and CMHS office, they do provide services in a variety of languages. They have Mandarin, Spanish. There's a bunch more on their website as well, so they're a great resource that we work with. And they do different support groups to help out any variety of students. So they're a great resource. And I don't know if Marissa or Lizzie, if there was anything you wanted to add based on any of the information. but we did go through that relatively quick. I do apologize. Woke up with a bit of a cold today, surprisingly. So I'm not 100%. But we can open it up for any questions, or if there's anything that anyone wanted us to elaborate more on or share about the international student experience here, you can put them in the Q&A. I will just leave up right now our social media and website information. Like I said, there's a ton of information on the website, and you can always reach out to us on International Center at Tufts.edu. But I will leave it open right now. We can wait a few minutes for some questions, or if anyone else wants to jump in on the panel to say anything.
There was a question in the chat about doing research and getting job opportunities and things on and off and after on campus while you're a student and off campus after you graduate. And there are plenty of opportunities. There's a lot of on-campus employment, especially if you are interested in research and want to, talk to a professor that you're working with. I went to Tufts for undergrad and did research with a professor. And as an F1 student, you are eligible to work on campus from the start. So up to 20 hours a week while school is happening and full-time during the summer and school breaks. And then additionally, there are opportunities to work to get work authorization for off-campus employment. So after you've studied for 2 semesters, you're eligible to get curricular practical training authorization to work off-campus in jobs related to your major. And then after you graduate, there's something called optional practical training, which is 1 year for most students and an additional 2 years if you're in a STEM eligible major. So there are opportunities to work off campus in the US, both while you're studying and after you graduate. So we have tons of information that we will give you if you're a student here. But just keep that in mind, just so you know when you're coming here that there are opportunities for you in both places.
Any other questions or concerns or worries about Tufts and being an international student here?
I'm seeing a couple questions here. What can be described about Tufts students in about a sentence? It looks like Mackenzie's sort of answering that in the Q&A, but maybe, I don't know, we all could try and answer that live. Sentence. I mean, I would say some of the things that I've noticed from Tufts students is that they're very curious, they're very kind, they're very engaged. Those are kind of 3 adjectives that are coming to my mind. I don't know if my colleagues have others.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've been at Tufts in the International Center for 10 years now, and I am just regularly just so impressed with how committed Tufts students are and how much they care about what they're doing and how thoughtful they are. And it's just that's the best part of the job, is working with the students. So I think committed, thoughtful, engaged, caring, that's how I would describe Tufts students.
Another word that comes to mind is just nice. I think there's a lot of just nice students on campus, and people are appreciative and, generally really excited to be here and as Pat said, kind of committed and engaged in whatever they are passionate about. So it's really fun to see, and definitely love interacting with the students because you guys are what makes our job exciting. I saw another question about the diversity parade, which I assume is the Parade of Nations. And that is a really exciting event. It happens once a year, usually in the spring, run by the I Club, the International Club, which is a Tufts run student organization. and it's awesome. A lot of dance performances and performances by different culture groups, and then a flag show at the end. So highly recommend attending or ideally participating in that if you come here. It's really fun. We all try to go as well, and always a good time.
See a question here. No, Tufts is very invested in civic engagement. How does the international community contribute, or how can they contribute? For the most part, it's everything that Tufts is engaged in around civic engagement is open to international students. I mean, the Tisch School, I know there's plenty of sort of groups and that focus on different issues under the Tisch College that I've worked with plenty of international students who are involved in those. There's very little that you couldn't be involved in. Some things might be considered like work, and you have to work through the immigration piece of that. But most of it, if it's voluntary and civic, it's permitted, and you can join any of the Tufts groups doing that, or go on your own and volunteer or help out with different public organizations. So it's there are plenty of international students who get involved in that regard and don't face, as far as I know, don't face any issues or barriers doing that. There's also question about work for F1 visa. We could talk a long time about work authorization and the differences there, but to sort of answer your question in a simple manner, generally anything you're doing on campus, like some of it is a job. Maybe you're working at the dining hall, maybe you're working at the library, maybe you're being paid to do research on campus with a professor or something like that. That's very clearly work, and you're subject to that 20-hour a week limit. But if you're just doing other stuff with student groups, or it's an entirely academic voluntary endeavor that you're doing, outside of your classes, that's generally okay, and you can do as much of that as you want. It just gets more strict when you cross over into that sort of employment work payment sort of situation. But prior to getting to that level, it's it's your time at school. You can do and get involved in all the clubs and do all sorts of things they're doing. So you're not limited in that regard.
It looks like Mackenzie is addressing the one-line answer to why Tufts, which is maybe best handled by an admissions person. Even though we all have many thoughts too about that, but so it looks like there aren't many other questions that we haven't yet addressed in the Q&A, but if there are any others that people are looking to ask, we can certainly stick around.
I might comment on the why Tufts, but like Mackenzie said, it's different for every student. But something I see a lot is some students can be surprised by how supportive the community and other students are. It's not in my experience talking with students, a hyper competitive situation. Like, people want everyone else to succeed. So that has always been nice to see, because everyone makes progress with the help of others, and that sort of carries through in my experience working with students. So uh, if I were 18 again or 20 and looking, that would be a comforting thing for me to know that in many situations, everyone's just happy to see other people succeed here. And that's one of the best parts about this job and working with international students, because you come from so many different places and backgrounds, and watching the students go from, first year students who figuring everything out and seeing them when they're seniors and how much progress they've made and how much they've done, that's really great. And to see that Tufts can help a student along that journey.
I can attempt to answer this question about being first gen in the States. So first generation, I think this came up when I was mentioning the First Center, which is one of the DSDI centers on campus. So my understanding is that is a status that a lot of students um, who are the first in their families to attend college, either 4-year, 2-year, something that's beyond high school. And that's sort of it often comes along, not always, but it comes along sometimes with a low income status as well. And so, that there are extra supports for students who are falling into this category. They might be of like a certain level of financial aid. Um, so that's my understanding. Others are welcome to chime in if there's something that I'm missing or.
That's a good question. Is there anything about Tufts that surprises first year students? I think every student has their own surprises. Some of them could be cultural, some of them could be just physical adjustment to the area or the weather. You would definitely have to hear from students to find out more about that. Maybe that's something that the peer advisors could do this summer, is like all the surprises they have in their first year. But really, that's very dependent on the individual and the things that where you're coming from, what your interests are, what you attempt to do, where you succeed, where you might have trouble, and how you respond to that. But I think that's a good focusing on those surprises is great, because that you really do learn a lot about yourself when you take time to think about why something might surprise you, and to examine that. So I don't know if others wanted to share on that.
I can chime in here. I think typically when I meet with first year students or undergrads, it's always the weather. Like I've seen snow and it looks pretty, but then when they're, immersed with, the windstorms and the wind chill and learning about scarves and hats and boots and waterproof coats and all of that. I give a really good shopping lesson, during that advising session. So weather, at least in my experience, advising for the last about 2.5 years has been number one.
There's a couple more questions that probably Mackenzie is best able to type up an answer to in here right now. And it looks like she's getting to those. just give it a few more minutes. And if anyone else has other questions, I think Mackenzie's going to get to the ones that are still in there. I just saw that question come in. A unique culture that surprised you throughout your Tufts career. I might need a second to think about that. I don't know if Julie or Lizzie or Marissa, you have something off the top of your head.
I mean, so and as I'm understanding this question to mean that like a culture from outside of the US that we as staff people are encountering. I think that's how I'm interpreting this question. Yeah, I mean honestly, I I find all cultures interesting. This is maybe this is sort of a not specific answer. Maybe you're looking for, me to pick one, but I I personally have since childhood kind of been really fascinated by people from outside of America. And so, for me, it's just always interesting. And, I guess if it's a culture that I'm less familiar with, I would say that's always going to be something that I just have more of a learning curve. I prior to this particular role, I worked as a high school language teacher for many years, and I was very focused on the Francophone world, so like countries that were French speaking, but really pushed myself outside of Europe and sort of Western cultures, and has spent some time in North and West Africa and the Caribbean and South Pacific. But so those experiences for me personally were always like, wow, I'm just somewhere that it looks completely different geographically. People are speaking, even though French is a language that kind of helps me connect with the population, it's not usually the official language. If the food is something that I've never tried before, or, spiced in a way that I've never experienced, like, the more the merrier for me. But anyways, that's a rambling answer.
Well, we can aim to wrap up here soon, in a few minutes, but we will um, stay for a few more minutes if anyone had any last questions.
Looks like we had a question about culture shock, and something that has surprised us. I mean, Pat and I do a fair amount of work with incoming first years who are participating in either Go, or I also have this come up a fair amount with the peer advisors. I don't know if there's one thing that I could single out, but as being the most surprising, but I would say that something that comes up a fair amount, I would say, is students really figuring out interactions with their professors and sort of navigating the academic system, is maybe something that people have an idea of what it's going to be like, but when you're actually, in a US university context and you're figuring out kind of like, what do I do about office hours and how do I address my professor? And there are lots of little things that are very specific, that, it could just be a real surprise of, we've heard this come up kind of again and again, I would never dream of addressing my professor by their first name, but in the US that happens quite a bit, that professors take a more casual kind of approach to interacting with their students, and they want it to be a little bit friendlier. And so that takes some adjusting, or, the concept of smaller discussion groups or office hours is not maybe typical in other, parts of the world where you have large lectures and there's a real kind of distance and barrier between professors and students. So that's something that I've noticed. I don't know if anyone else has a thought about that.
Yeah, there's definitely academic adjustments depending on the systems you're used to and what the culture you're coming from, what they expect in certain environments. And obviously there's a, individual personality element that can vary among people from any culture. But um, yeah, I think the academic piece, there is some people have a greater adjustment or less, and you could consider that a culture shock, but that process is just an adjustment. It's up and downs. Um, it's analyzing the surprises you face, but um, the important thing is knowing that, like, when you come to Tufts, there's lots of people who want you to succeed and want to help you. And I think that's the best way to manage those adjustments that you face, those ups and downs, as because it's not an easy thing to go to a new country and spend 4 years of study. It's a great experience and awesome, but it's not always perfect. Life is never perfect. So, but it's made a lot easier when you reach out and get the help, because like I said, our entire office loves to work with students, help them out when they need it, or even if they're just doing great, stop by. We love to hear from you. Um, like I said, I've been at Tufts 10 years, and primary reason for that is the students we get to work with. So, um, if you do decide to come to Tufts and you're here and you just run into some culture shock or surprises, you can always come see us. We're not here just for immigration, but we can help you out. Our staff is pretty well traveled. We've had experiences in different cultures and have gone through those same adjustments in our own ways. Um, so we have a lot of experience in our office with that, and um, happily help out students with those questions like that.
The question came in about on-campus housing. That is not my field of expertise, but I'm not sure if, yeah, it looks like Mackenzie's maybe gonna grab it. Thank you.
Sure, and I can just unmute and answer this really quick. My mouth is faster than my fingers. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up and answer all these. All first year and sophomore students have guaranteed housing on campus. After that, about 30% of students choose to live on campus and 70% choose to live off. But the joke is that the off-campus housing is closer than the on-campus housing. So this is not a commuter school. Students are still walking to class, and housing tends to be passed down through the generations of jumbos. So we have a really strong Office of Housing who's going to make sure that financial aid is transferring over and students are living in safe, accessible housing. Amazing. Any other final questions? Great. This was a fabulous session. Thank you so much to the International Center for being here with us today. We really, really appreciate it. This was fabulous insight into the great work that you do. If anyone has any questions for the International Center, their email is on the screen. If you have any questions for admissions, please feel free to email us at undergraduate.admissions@tufts.edu. And as always, feel free to use all the resources available to you on all of the websites, do some more research, check everything out, and we are always here to answer questions. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.